Well, yes, I'm running late this morning because just as I was leaving the house, I got a call from Kelly saying that her car was making a very strange, loud noise. And I told her to come straight home. I went out front. As she drove by, it sounded like a wild animal was living under her left rear wheel well. And it was like a metal on metal grating sound. So imagine you remove the brake pad and then use the brakes as you're going down the street and just grinding sound. But it was happening without her applying the brakes. So she got home, parked the car, went inside, called the dealership, and then I'm racing up here to record this episode. And just as I pull in the lot, she calls to say, hey, I'm taking the car to the dealership, but the strangest thing, it's not making any sound now. I'm like, well, that's magic. And she says, tell me I'm not crazy and you heard this sound, right? And so the reality is, yeah, I heard the sound. I mean, the whole neighborhood heard the sound as she was coming down the street. But my answer to her was, I don't know what you're talking about. What sound? That was fun. So there's a story of my morning with Kelly's car.
So maybe it was an animal after all.
Might have been like a Wolverine.
A lot of Wolverines in Indy.
Go blue.
No.
All right. Well,
how did you cap off Father's Day?
Father's Day was capped off on the couch, folding laundry, watching a movie with my youngest. I can't remember the name of the movie. Something Miracle. But it was a World War II movie that he enjoys thoroughly. And then I might have fallen asleep during it.
Yeah.
Because I'm officially old dad. I can't make it halfway through a movie anymore.
Speaking of that dad, our dad, what do you think of the bomb drop on us Father's Day? They announced that they're selling their house that they've been in since I was 2, so about 20 years.
That just hit me.
Anyone?
I had to think about that for a second. I'm like, wait a minute, your math sucks.
Yeah, well, it does. Yeah, 40 plus years in the same house. I don't know. I guess I knew the day was coming, but when it finally was out, I don't know. It suddenly hit me, and then I got weird about it.
It's the first announcement was that they've purchased a new home, which doesn't really affect me a whole lot. I mean, I'm excited for them. Quite frankly, I've seen the pictures of the house, and it's nicer than their current house, I feel like.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. The emotional part will hit when it's moving day and they're moving out. That part will be really hard. Did they buy the house in 74 then? I thought it was 76, but I don't really know.
Somewhere in there. I thought it was 2 when they moved in, but
only thing I know is that they owned that house before I was born. I was born in 78. Blizzard of 78. An Aquarius, make love, not war. So yeah, that's the only home I've ever known. So it'll be hard when they move out. That's for sure. But happy for them. Happy that they've graduated to single floor living. Something all of our knees can look forward to at some point.
I will agree that I like the house. The master's on the main, which is the key, but it's still a 3-story house, essentially. Basement, main floor, upstairs.
Yeah.
Which I was a little surprised about, but whatever.
Yeah, and it has the basement is currently at man cave status, and I can see our dad, known as Senior, spending a lot of time on the couch down there, falling asleep to movies, sports events, the news, about anything. We should get him one of those like electronic lazy boy chairs where you push the button and it like lifts you up out of the chair.
I'll let you approach that with him. The fun part is today's guest will have his own little room in the basement too, so he can go over there and still hang out with them.
I think they call that the wine cellar. antithesis of the Wolverine sitting across the table from us, at least one, maybe two notches down. We have a Buckeye in the room, which is why the world's axis is on a slight tilt in the wrong direction. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I actually come here from Dover, Ohio. I work for the boys, and glad to be here this morning. It's a little something different that I didn't expect over the years of working for them that I would be doing this, but excited to be here and see where it goes.
What's your name?
Oh, Les Yoder.
Les Yoder. Les Yoder. OH.
I-O.
Sucks. I know, it's terrible. What's it going to be like when IU, the Hoosiers, the Hoosh, go Hoosh, finally pulled off? Like, how much trash talk will you expect from us when we finally go 1 in 1 million against you in football?
That'll probably be the day that my cell phone breaks and just disappears, so there's no contact allowed.
You do realize that if and when and if, really just let's be honest, when IU knocks off Ohio State, that every preceding game in the record books ceases to exist, that we will become 1-0 against you of all time.
Oh, absolutely. But I guess I think back on, you guys can now do your own pictures with your own fans then, because you'll fill the stadium up.
Yeah, you're right.
Touche.
You're right. I look forward to that day. I was always, for those of you wondering what Les is talking about, it was always IU photo day for the media guide and the programs when IU would host Ohio State at Memorial Stadium in Bloomington, because it was always a sellout. At least back when I was in school in the late 90s, that was always the sellout. And they get a helicopter way up high where all you could see was reddish and whitish, and couldn't quite tell that it was really scarlet and gray in the IU stadium to make it look really cool for the cover of a media guide / program. But times are changing, Les. Times are changing. Tom Allen has the train full speed ahead.
Yeah, that'll be good. Obviously, I know you both you guys and me go back and forth on basketball and football, but now with the football program at IU gaining momentum, it'll be interesting to watch.
Don't even get me started
And
on basketball.
basketball's going to be interesting too.
Yeah, we're trying to step our game up over here.
Well, for anyone who doubted Woody coming into Assembly Hall, I think he's got that train rolling already, big time.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be fun.
Let's break the ice here on some personal stuff. I called you yesterday with a question, a work-related question, and in the background, I'm like, gosh, why does it sound like Les is shooting guns or something? I don't know why I thought that, other than obviously the sound. And I'm like, where are you? And your answer was?
I was at my son was shooting at the Cardinal Center in Ohio at a state competition for skeet shooting.
So you're at the gun range.
I was at the gun range.
So I wasn't crazy.
Nope, you weren't crazy.
I'm like, why does he sound like he's shooting guns right now?
Because
I'm shooting guns.
Couple hundred kids. Obviously, they shoot in squads of 5, and they shot 200 rounds each per kid yesterday. So a lot of shooting, a lot of banging going on. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, so what are they shooting, 12 gauge, 18 gauge?
A lot of them are at 12s, but some of the younger kids are at 20s.
20.
But, it's a 16-yard shot, and we got into it a couple of years ago, and I guess I didn't realize how big it was. And it's not just it's with girls, boys, it's everybody. And I'll be honest, I mean, some of the girls show them boys up, and it's interesting. But obviously, there's a lot of I want to say there's 50 or 60 different ranges down there, so it's pretty neat place.
So they shoot 200 shots.
Mm-hmm.
Do they shoot a set amount per round?
Yeah,
or?
So it's a 25. So when it's squads of 5, and they shoot. There's 5 stations per range, and they'll shoot 25 per setting.
So do all 5 kids do
5, and 5?
Step 1, then step 2, then step 3, and they just rotate through?
They rotate around for 25 shots, and they do that.
And is time at all a factor, or is it just hitting it?
Just hitting it.
And it doesn't matter how much you hit it, as long as you just barely nick it versus bullseye that thing and blow it into a million pieces?
Absolutely. It's as long as the judge sees, the scoring person sees that there's a chip or there's something, and it's considered a hit.
Did anyone get shot?
No.
We call that winning.
You were there that day.
I was. That was
Maybe we'll save that for another episode.
That's definitely its own episode.
That's been what, 12 years ago?
Yeah, something like
Gotta
that.
be a while.
I that part got scraped.
Still got one of them right in here somewhere. Anyway,
Yeah, it's all good.
Well, that's cool. I'm not a big gun person, and I'm not a big hunter. Although when I'm doing it, it's fun. But I went clay shooting this last winter once, and it was a ton of fun.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is you see the range of age of kids too. I mean, some very young kids getting involved in it, and one of the things that the very early on when they start practicing is gun safety. I mean, they have to go through rigorous programs to do that. So obviously, we keep it safe and fun, and keep the kids and the parents enjoy it. So
You tell them to aim for the top hat.
that's right.
So I'm with my wife and another couple, and it's my turn to go on the very first stand, and they're just coming from below me, basically like foot level out in front, and I completely missed like the first 5 or 6. I'm like, I suck at shooting apparently. And then the guy that was our guide also coaches, so he's a competitive team coach for youth.
Absolutely.
And he said, "What are you aiming at?" I'm like, "Well, I'm aiming at the clay disc shooting out in front of me." And he's like, "Well, imagine it has a top hat on." So immediately I thought of Mr. Peanut, his little top hat with a little spectacle. I'm like, "Oh," or a monocle, really, a monocle, right? Didn't he have one? Yeah. So every time a thing went out, I just imagined it was Mr. Peanut going for a ride, and it was the best advice. I hit almost every one the rest of the session. Little top hat.
There you go. Now you can start shooting competition.
And Mr. Peanut's no more, right? Didn't they get rid of Mr. Peanut because he was too old timey? They're trying to rebrand. Like, man, I think now it's like Baby Peanut.
anyway,
That's also another episode.
All right. So we already touched on the fact that there's a Ohio connection. Why don't you give our viewers a taste of where you're from and your background?
You do realize that if he talks more about Ohio and Ohio State, that all 3 of our followers are going to unfollow us.
No, we'll actually get several more.
Hey, we can go to a bigger pool. Just because I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm a Flash graduate, Kent State, so we could go down that road too. But anyhow,
nothing against Kent State, but the Ohio State alumni base is slightly larger.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Talk to us.
Yeah, so obviously I was born and raised in Holmes County, Ohio.
And for those who don't know anything about Holmes County, in 30 seconds or less,
largest Amish community in the states. Large furniture cabinet market. Lot of tourists. Obviously, you look at there's really 3 main Amish communities, but they continue to get bigger and more of them. And as Holmes County is probably between the one in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Holmes County are probably the 2 biggest ones on the market. But obviously pulls a lot of tourists. Over the last 20 years, the communities have really flourished in the furniture and cabinet markets and been very profitable, which has brought obviously our business to the next level also because of supplying raw materials to them, finishes and coatings and stuff like that. So
which are all our Millersburg, Ohio facility, and then some out of the Elkhart, Indiana facility as well, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Our Millersburg facility obviously services the local market, but when you start going to the western side of Ohio, our Elkhart facility, takes care of that. Just it makes sense as logistic-wise to handle that.
And to interrupt, for our lay people out there listening, Holmes County is a county with several small towns within it. But in our world, in our industry, it's just sort of parlance for one of the Amish markets, or really one of the coatings markets that we serve. So when we say Holmes County, it's sort of code to talk about a specific geographic market beyond just an area on a map. And when we talk about furniture and cabinets, kitchen cabinets, at the base level, the Amish communities, for the most part, for their means of income, there are 2 primary industries that they work within. One is woodworking. So manufacturing of anything made out of wood, whether it be a one guy shop or a 500-man shop, Amish owned and primarily Amish worked, or they hired English. English is just another word we use for anything non-Amish. And if they're either in the woodworking industry or typically they're in agriculture, farming. So just a quick bit of background there for the lay listener.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually have seen, obviously on the wood side, continue to grow, and over the last 20 some years, you always question how big can it get, and I think nobody can answer that, but it just continues to get bigger and bigger, which is a great thing for them.
Mm-hmm. So how, and that's maybe a easy question to answer, but how did you then get into this business?
Yes, so it was through later on up in my high school years. Me and another guy partnered up and started a custom finish shop. One of the local builders kind of confronted us on doing some custom finishing because he didn't want to do it. So that's kind of where it started, and we kind of grew it from there. And over the years,
you guys just did finishing. You weren't building any furniture at all.
No, just finishing.
Yep.
Started out when we started doing that. We actually started. Obviously, the brand is gone, but it was the Lily products back then. And it grew, and I ended up buying my partner out. And over the years, it was probably 5-6 years that we were into it. As I had an opportunity to sell, and I did. And at that point, I was using Accessa products, and they say, "Hey, what are you going to do?" I'm like, "I'm not quite sure." So you want a job? Absolutely. So I came on board just basically in the production area, working on the inside, and 21 years later, here we are, and now the operation manager and running our facilities and taking care of our tech reps and stuff like that. So it's been a really good journey.
It was like a tractor beam, sucked them right in. What movie is that from? Oh, come on.
Men in Black?
Dumb and Dumber.
Oh,
there you go.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Jeff. I know you're watching.
How long ago has that been? You've been with us longer than I have.
Yeah, so I came on board in December of 2000.
Okay, so just before.
Yep.
2000. You've been with us for 80 years?
I have.
Feels like it.
It feels like it.
Yeah.
Yep.
But you look younger now than you did when you started. It's amazing.
What, because I trimmed the beard?
That's a good start. It's getting a little cray, getting a little Billy Goatish.
So when you first started, you said you were in production. Like, well, just making batches. Or you were probably doing color work too, though. I think based on your experience.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. At the time I was brought in, there was a color matcher, another production person, a delivery guy, and myself, and then obviously a customer service person in the Ohio branch. And at that point, I took over kind of running it in a way because I was doing the ordering and working with the corporate purchasing agent because everything got shipped in from Elkhart at that time still.
Yep.
And it just kind of grew from there. And obviously, senior involved, senior being the president at the time, it kind of just kept growing from there. And I don't remember what year it was, but it wasn't that far into it. I remember sitting in Columbus at a German restaurant that I met your guys' father at, and said, "Hey, you want to get into sales?" I'm like, I haven't really thought about it, but sure, let's give it a shot. So obviously that the next step of in my career with you guys was in sales and taking on the branch and just continue to grow from there.
Yeah. So how'd that go for you?
It's been great. It's been great. Obviously, you guys know I love Senior. We've probably for a different cast, maybe it's things that happen on the road with Senior and I, but he may not want to talk about that.
We don't want to hear it. La, la, la. Oh, good. So let's go back even further. Let's talk about Little Les.
All right.
Little baby Les.
Oh.
So you can speak the Amish Dutch to some degree.
Yes, I can.
And tell us where you picked that up, because you didn't grow up Amish, but it's in the family lineage. So you're not just a guy who sells into the market or lives in the market, but truly understand the culture firsthand.
Yeah. So my dad grew up Amish. My mom was a conservative Mennonite. Dad never joined a church, and obviously he met Mom, and they stayed as a conservative Mennonite. So growing up with Mom and Dad, Mom spoke Dutch and Swiss, and obviously English. So, and I get myself into trouble because I will start a conversation in Dutch, but my Swiss will come out, and guy will look at me like, "What did you just say?" I'm like, I had to think about that one for a minute, threw a little Swiss in there. So just having both parents talk it some, but probably the biggest thing is the neighborhood kids were Amish, and I hung out with them. And that was my, after school, that's what we did. We hung out and played ball or whatever. And, in the Amish culture, that's all they speak at home. And then usually when they start going to school, and some families are different today, but a lot of everything they talk at home is the Pennsylvania Dutch. So I just kind of picked it up, just being around it all them years.
How much of a difference is there between, we'll call it Pennsylvania Dutch and Swiss?
Two
different languages, or more of a dialect thing?
No, it's two different languages. Some of it is the Pennsylvania Dutch is a shoot off of German. But then there are certain dialects of Dutch that have a little bit of the Swiss in it, especially in our the southeastern corner in Indiana, down around Decatur area. Some of them Amish actually have more Swiss into it than the German side. So that's where I picked up on it. Obviously, going to school, the local grade schools, going to school with them, and you just learned it. So.
So Heather, off camera, off mic, Heather, our resident room mom, I know she's dying to hear you say something in Dutch or Swiss or something.
Wie bist du? How are you?
Bien, gracias. You too? All right. Well, there you go. There you go. You okay, Heather? Is that... She loves a man with an accent.
Yeah.
All right.
You talked about, so your current role, operations manager for Accessa. What would you say you spend most of the time on these days?
In the last...
Keep it clean.
Yep, I will. I would say in the last 6 to 18 months has been recruiting people. It's challenging, and I know we've all talked about it. Is thinking outside the box. How do you recruit really good people? And it's not necessarily looking for people that have experience, but just getting good people and training them. And I think that's probably I'm speaking for a lot of people out there. Is just finding good people. And then obviously you want to look at once you find them good people, is getting some good training programs behind them. And I think now's the time that you really need to look at that and say, all right, we're doing everything we can to do that. And I think a lot of us can probably say no, but it's something we need to improve on and try to get them people on board.
Yeah. I actually had a conversation last night with someone who's in a different industry, saying the same thing. They build commercial buildings. He couldn't remember how many they have a bunch of openings, can't get them filled. And then I saw on LinkedIn, I think it was yesterday as well, or over the weekend, some large company, it escapes me who it was now, but they have like 2,000 openings that they can't fill. And so it's going to we're just going to stop operating the way we would normally do because we can't continue to do so. We don't have the people.
Yeah, no, it is a challenge. And looking back through the COVID, I mean, who knew that this was going to be the biggest challenge coming out of COVID is just manpower.
Right.
You go down the road, and obviously I travel a little bit for work, and it doesn't matter if I'm in Ohio or if I'm in Denver, Colorado. It's the same story. For hire signs everywhere. Obviously, are they doing signing bonuses? Are they doing open interviews? And it's a different world out there when it comes to hiring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Speaking of Starbucks, I just saw there was a couple of local stores that changed their hours because they don't have the staff. And I think I've seen other restaurants or retail stores do the same thing. They don't have anybody to fill it, so they modify their hours.
Yeah, that's a big thing in the news right now, is talking about the exodus of employment from the retail space, because people, why they took a job in retail is, I don't know. I mean, there's a ton of different reasons. But there are many in retail that have found that there are other, call it office jobs, other careers that offer a longer path of growth out there that are not in retail. And they're saying, I don't want this retail job because I don't have a lot of path for growth. It's a dead end job, either for promotion or income. And they're going out and getting, call it office jobs or manufacturing or whatever it is that offer more stepping stones along a path. My thought on that was, okay, Accessa.com, jobs at Accessa.com. Come on over. You want to leave retail? We don't really care what your background is. You just need to be a good person who wants to learn and work hard, and you may have a shot to join the team.
We have about 8 openings right now. Close to it.
Yeah, close to it. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
And it's obviously, as Joe said, Accessa.com, jobs, come on over. I mean, we aren't a huge company, but we're big enough to where there is opportunities for growth. I think I'm a good example of that. You put in the time and the hard work, I mean, you'll go places and be able to do different things and see a lot of different new ideas and things like that throughout the company.
Yep. You mentioned COVID, and we talked about this in our first episode, but for that stretch of, let's say, the first 3 to 6 months when things were literally shut down in the first couple months there, and then slowly started opening back up, but it allowed us to all to kind of take a step back and allowed us to look at the business from a higher altitude and work on it versus in it. From an operational standpoint, what would you say I know what they were, but what would you say were the key topics of discussion, let's say March, April, of May of last year, and then what have we done since that time, primarily reinvestment into different facilities and things like that, and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so one of the things that when March, when everything started shutting down and nobody really knew what was going to happen, I look back and there was a lot of Zoom calls, a lot of phone calls between you guys and myself and the management team of discussions of where's this going to go and what do we need to do to prep our facilities for basically we never close, but for our customers to reopen. And some of it was technology. What new technologies out there, some of the technology we were already investing in, and what was the next step, and that's what we did. I mean, some of the equipment is obviously getting new data colors in the rest of our facilities. We had started that program about 3 or 4 years ago. We went ahead and purchased the rest of them. So there's photospectrophotometers in every facility now. Some automatic filling equipment, some shakers. I mean, it was just a random of a lot of different items that just improve our efficiency in our labs in the production area.
And you're talking about multiple facilities receive a lot of these upgrades.
Absolutely. So the last 3, so in the last 30 days, I've set up the new data color in Ohio, Chicago, and Jasper. Our newest satellite location is in Jasper, Indiana, which this week I'm going to be setting up there. That's the last piece of equipment that needs to be set up. I feel like Denver. I knew I was missing one. We set up the Denver's location. And obviously there was a lot of planning going on. I mentioned something about the Jasper location. There was a lot of planning through COVID to get that up and running, which it is up and running now. Everything is in place, and we're starting to do color matches, and everything's good down there.
Awesome. So going to the need to fill all these positions and the difficulty with doing so right now, do you think there's any more opportunity where efficiency and equipment investment could maybe help offset the inability to hire? Obviously, some positions, a machine's not going to replace it.
Yeah.
But do you think there's any opportunity for that at all?
I think there is some. If I look at get at 60,000 foot and look at the company right now, where our pain points are, and that's the labs, color matching. Everything is custom these days. There's not I go back 15 years ago, and I remember Elkhart making, 100-gallon batch of one stain. Them days are gone. It's now, I want a gallon of this and a gallon of that, and it's putting a lot of pressure on our labs to create all this stuff. So you look at what technology is out there for lab people. I think we've invested a lot of money into that, and I think now it's just really come down on that side of just finding people to utilize the equipment we have and take us to the next level.
Yeah.
So what is we talk investment in equipment and automation, which does obviously the benefit of that's efficiency, maybe doing more with less. But as you just mentioned, there's a breaking point there where we're not going to fully automate our company and just have a bunch of robots running around. We've got a fantastic crew on board now that are working their tails off. We're trying to provide relief in specific areas. Where's the concern on burnout? I don't think any of us can say we can avoid burnout, and that's a big topic right now across many industries, especially as people are coming out of COVID, coming out of work from home and facing that transition back to working in the office, full-time, part-time, depending on the company and the industry.
Did you see the Bumble news?
The Bumble news?
Yeah, that Bumble.
That Bumble.
They and a couple others are doing a week off for all employees, like literally shutting everything down. There's to be no communication, all systems are turned off, everything for an entire week.
Interesting.
Just as like a mandatory vacation.
Yeah, they're kind of like some are calling it a wellness week or what have you.
I like that idea. I'm going to do that. I'm not saying we're going to do that. I'm going to do that. Y'all, you can't call me, you can't text me, you can't email me, you can't MS Teams me. So I don't think we can avoid burnout. It's not something that you can just escape. But when we start feeling that, what are some ways, some thoughts you have on how to handle burnout to try and minimize it? Hit the reset button and come back in.
Yeah, a very good question. It's not an easy question to answer because I think every individual and every employee has their own tolerances. But obviously, knowing our employees and knowing where we're at, it is something that I'm watching all the time. And I think it's coming up with creative ideas to reward them. And obviously they need to know that we're doing everything we can to hire people and get more people on board. Them seeing that, I think, is a relief also. Say, hey, we're not just sitting back, just waiting for people. We're trying to recruit. We're trying to get people on. But and I encourage our employees, and I know you guys do, to use their vacation times and their holiday times. But, I still run into some challenges on that because they look at they don't want to take off because we're behind. And to me, that's something they need to do is they take their time off to hit the refresh button and come back. And we need to be able to do that as a company and be okay with it. And I know we are, but just to encourage it more.
Yeah, we do have our it's the common suspects, it seems like, but we do have too many people. I mean, even one is too many that don't use all their vacation time because they just think, well, I can't take the day off. I'm too busy, or the week off, or a long weekend. And some might say, well, that's good. You've got good hard workers. And the reality is, no, that's not good, because it's not good for your physical or mental health. We need people to consume all their vacation and PTO and things like that. That's what they're there for.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Awesome. What other questions? Yeah, we're hitting the ceiling here.
Well, we talked about the investments in the equipment and how those can improve efficiency and whatnot. And most of that's centered around our company. But when you go out and see some of the customers, like we all have, and you go into certain facilities and you see investments that they're making at the same time to do the same type of thing, and see, it's a much broader range than just Accessa, obviously. What other things do you see down the road, either for us or others, that you find intriguing from an operational standpoint?
Probably the biggest thing is the technology part of it, because it goes back to I fall back to manpower, and I don't think it's going to be a 12 to 24 month. Hey, in 24 months we have all these employees, we're ready to go. I think this is going to be a long, drawn out process. So what that's creating is people to look outside the box and say, all right, what equipment out there, what technologies out there that we can implement to do what people are doing, because the resources aren't there. So I think over the next couple of years, we're going to see some pretty cool items coming out in the finishing world. Just the technology out there, it's going to be good. But I think it's going to go based on technology and trying to get as much automation as we can in the industry.
Yeah. So I know we have a meeting this afternoon, but what would you say is your number one goal for the remainder of this year without relaying any top secret strategy?
Hiring good people. Because it obviously the sales guys, the sales managers are going to be looking at the sales aspect of it, but on the operations side, we got to be able to take care of it.
Right.
We're bringing on new customers, and we don't have the right staffing or the proper staffing in place to handle the new customers. It's going to be a bumpy road, but just getting enough people and the right people on the bus, and making sure that when new opportunities come by, it's an easy transition for them customers to bring them on.
Second, Jim Collins, Good to Great reference. Get the people on the bus and
It's
in the right
all
seats.
falling into place. Tell me someone knows what that's from.
Simpsons.
The Simpsons. Come on, Mr. Burns. Release the hounds. Smithers. You
Sounds like you do have a lot of TV time.
Nope, just a memory for all the random stuff I don't need to remember.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, as we wrap up, and our listeners are hitting their end of the road here, any questions for us?
What made you guys decide to do a podcast? Kind of threw me for a loop a little bit.
My answer is easy. Vince told me I had to.
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
We like to do something different, right? Podcasts are certainly, there's a ton of them out there right now, but we talk about our roles in terms of employees, like our sales reps. They're sales reps, but we call them coatings consultants. We have tech reps. They're technical coatings consultants, or chemical consultants and technical chemical consultants. I think it's all about providing knowledge as well as gaining knowledge from our guests and whatnot, and sharing that with the world, I guess, or really with our community base and of customers and future customers, prospects, and the others. And just talking about industry, I think it's an exciting time because technology is affecting everything now, including our industrial world. And so to bring various issues to light and talk about what's coming, what's next, et cetera, is I think kind of part of our duty. And so it just made sense. And we had this cool studio to utilize,
and we're almost famous. I mean, Matt Lauer, Tony Kanaan, wannabe Tom Cruise. I was like 8th grade, I think. I'm going to have to dig up this photo. He wanted a haircut to look like Tom Cruise and got for his school photos. That was fly. Didn't look like Tom Cruise, but it was fly. I'm going to pull up that photo and post that shit out there. All right, for our listeners, what ways do you, if you're especially if you're a manager or an employer, or if you're on the other end of that, what are some ways that you avoid burnout or handle burnout? What are some thoughts or ideas you have for employee recruitment and retention? Hit us up on our YouTube channel, like it, subscribe to it, place
hit the
comments
notification
on there.
bell.
Yep, hit the bell, ding, ding. Comment on it. Send us your feedback on ideas you have for employment engagement. Again, recruitment, retention, handling burnout, benefits, things of that nature. Or shoot us an email, info@accessa.com, info@accessa.com. On this topic or any other topics you'd like us to discuss. We will love your ideas and feedback. Les, thank you.
Thank you guys. It's fun.
Thank you, Lester.
All right. And that is a wrap.